Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to day 2 of official Kaladesh previews. Now that feels a little strange to say. We're coming out of PAX where we had 4 days of amazing previews, but this technically is the official second day. If you missed the cards that came out of PAX, you can check out our playlist on the channel with all the preview cards from Kaladesh. There are some incredible ones. The Chandra so far, maybe my favorite. I think it's a lot of people's favorite. Incredible card, but we have more cards to look at today, and we have more really good ones. You can see from the title screen here, Nissa, Vital Force is no joke either. We'll talk about her more in just a few minutes. Now quickly, before we get into the cards, just a reminder, if you check out the description below, there's a link to our Amazon affiliate store, and I tried to collect a lot of the Magic product and give them some order, which you usually can't find on Amazon. But if you see anything on there, you find a good deal, and you decide to make a purchase through those links, a small percentage will come back to the channel. So it's another way to help support the channel in addition to what we already had with Patreon. So as always, thank you for looking at those. If that's something you're interested in, thank you to all the patrons on Patreon. And even if you can't afford to do those things, that's fine too. As long as you watch the videos, maybe give us a like, it really helps us out as well. So having said that, let's get into the new information for today. And we're going to start off with some product packaging. So a few things on here are kind of old, a few things have a new twist to them. But basically what you see here is you have your booster box. We'll look at the booster packs a little closer in just a second. Deck Builder's Toolkit is back, of course, and we have the 2-player booster battle pack. You usually find those in big box stores. They're really geared for new players. But maybe the thing that's the most interesting is the new bundle pack. It looks pretty much the same as the old fat pack. The biggest difference being you get 10 boosters instead of 9 boosters. Of course, the price is a little different to compensate for that. They did say you still get the collector's guide. It'll be interesting to see, though, if the product's changed in any other way other than the additional booster pack. But there it is. That's what it's going to look like. Let's look at the booster packs. And here's the art that you'll find. 5 different pieces of art on the boosters. Actually looks really nice. And here's the pre-release kit. So it's basically the same as what we're used to for the last few sets. We'll get 6 packs of Kaladesh, you'll get the spin down die, you'll get your promo card that will be playable in your sealed deck. Your promo card is a foil, date stamped, rare or mythic rare, and it could be any mythic or rare from this set. So that's all the same. You won't be getting the foil token like we got last time with the zombie token, but instead you're going to be getting this Thopter that you can build, I guess, and it's actually pictured on the top right hand of the screen. It kind of blends in with the background of Kaladesh, so I just want to point out that that's not the art, that's actually the Thopter that comes with it. It really looks like Kaladesh, so there you go. The other thing that's a little different, I kind of saw Wizards has a video out where they showed somebody using one of these, and there's like a little latch that opens it. It's kind of interesting, but the bottom part is what you see at the bottom right. You can put your dice in there, so there's a separate dice compartment. So that's pretty cool. I actually really like what they've done with these pre-release kits. It makes it feel like a real product. I remember the old days where you'd go to the LGS and they would just kind of open a booster box and throw 6 packs down in front of you. And then later, of course, they had the different types of builds where you could choose a guild or you could choose a color, and then you got the same promo card, so the same promo card kept coming up in all the games you played. I didn't really like that much, so this is really awesome. Fantastic job. I'm glad they're continuing this product. Alright, and here's the product that maybe has the biggest change, and that's the Planeswalker decks. Now, you probably remember the 5 intro decks they used to put out with every set. This time around, we get 2 Planeswalker decks, and I actually like this change. Now, there's some similarities. I mean, these are still geared for newer players. They still come with 2 booster packs. The difference is you're actually going to get a few unique cards that you can't get in the regular Kaladesh set. Most notably, the foil Planeswalkers that you see in the front here. We'll take a closer look at these in just a couple minutes, but technically, all the cards in here, even the ones that are not in Kaladesh proper, are actually playable in Standard. Now the twist is they kind of watered down those cards a little bit so that they're not going to be very desirable for Standard, and in a lot of cases probably not even desirable for even Commander or even some more casual formats. They really wanted this product to be geared for newer players. They didn't want a situation where more experienced players had to go in and buy 4 of each of these things so that they could play Standard or even just pick them up for their Commander decks or anything like that. They really wanted to make this product for folks that are coming into the game, learning how to play, learning how to use Planeswalkers, and they get something that's a little more unique and flashy than just the intro pack rare that they used to get. I really like this idea. I think it's really cool. I mean, it still comes with 2 boosters, so I'm sure like pre-release weekend there'll be people just buying these to get extra boosters. That used to happen with the intro packs. But I think after that, most of the intro pack sales are from like big box stores. I think that will be the case for these as well. But having said that, let's take a closer look at the 2 cards that they showed us today, and those of course are the 2 Planeswalkers. The first one is Chandra Pyrogenius. 2 red and 4, and this is a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, +2, and she'll deal 2 damage to each opponent, -3, and she'll deal 4 damage to target creature, and -10, she'll deal 6 damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. So, like I said, not super exciting. This isn't the Chandra we looked at yesterday. That Chandra was incredible. This one, like I said, is really geared for new players. It teaches them how a Planeswalker works, and it also kind of gives you an idea of what red is all about. So that's really the goal here. As far as the art goes, I kind of like the background art, but she looks kind of strange to me. I don't know, like her face looks very different than how we've been seeing her recently, especially in that previous card that was spoiled yesterday, which looked amazing. So not a huge fan of the art on this one. As far as where you're going to play this card, obviously it's not going to hold up in Standard. You could play it in Commander. I mean, there's just a lot of better things you could be doing, but I know sometimes people like to have crazy themed Commander decks, so if you want like a Chandra deck, then sure, she would go in there, and it could be fun anyway, and that's what Commander is all about, right? Just having fun and just designing quirky things sometimes. So there it is. Other than that, can't really think of a other good use for her other than actually playing her in the actual Planeswalker deck. Next we have Nissa, Nature's Artisan, 2 green and 4, 5 loyalty, +3, you gain 3 life, -4, reveal the top 2 cards of your library, put all land cards from among them onto the battlefield, the rest into your hand, -12, creatures you control get +5/+5, and gain trample until end of turn. It's funny, when you look at the 2 minus abilities, just in a vacuum, they actually sound pretty good, but then you look and it's like, oh, this costs 6, and she has 5 loyalty. She can go up by 3s, but you only gain 3 life to do it. So again, this card, much like the Chandra, is really just for play in the dual deck. We're also at some point going to see a few other unique cards to those decks. For example, there will be unique tutors to the 2 Planeswalkers. So for example, there'll be some sort of tutor that will say, go and find Nissa, Nature's Artisan. It won't say go find Nissa, so it won't cross over with other Nissas. It will just be for this one. So I'm sure these cards will start to be spoiled as well at some point. But for today anyway, we got the 2 Planeswalkers, and yeah, like I said, if you're trying to make a fun themed Commander deck, I mean, they're there for you. Other than that, or maybe if you're just a collector and you just want to get all the Nissas or all the Chandras, and you particularly like those characters, well then that's fine. But other than that, I think they're really for new players. And let's get on to the regular Kaladesh cards for the day. Alright, first we have Torrential Gearhulk. 2 blue and 4. This one's a mythic. Artifact creature construct 5/6 with flash. When this enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So this is interesting to me. We've seen 2 other Gearhulks. We've seen the green one and the white one, so obviously this looks like a cycle. Don't know if all 5 will be in this set or if they'll do 3 in this set and 2 in the other, so that remains to be seen. But the other 2 just felt super powerful. Like for 5 mana, the other 2 were both 5 mana, and they were just like houses. I mean, the green one just came down. It could potentially be an 8/8 trampler for 5. It was nuts. The white one had a built-in Cataclysm effect, which also lets you keep your Planeswalker. That was crazy. This one for 6 just doesn't feel that good to me. I mean, it feels like, I don't know, a control deck wants this, but at the same time, like, a control deck also wants creatures with evasion. So yeah, maybe I can have 6 mana up, my opponent tries to cast something, I play this, I get the counter spell out of my deck and I get to replay it. Okay, that's cool. Or maybe they're attacking in with something big and I can flash this into play as a combat trick. All well and good, but then at that point, I just got this big dumb beater that can't get by a servo token. You know, it just feels really weird. Like, if it had flying, that'd be a little different for me. Or even if it was something like creatures with power 3 or less can't block it. Like, that would feel better, but as it stands right now, I just don't feel like there's a home for something like this, especially at 6 mana. And it's a little disappointing because the other two we've seen so far seem so good. And the blue one just kind of leaves me wanting for more or for something different. I don't know. So it's a little disappointing. It's very playable and limited, though, don't get me wrong. This is very good and limited. If you have some instances targets, wonderful. And if you don't, you still get yourself a 5/6 beater that can come in as a combat trick, and that can be very, very good and limited. So there's nothing wrong with it there. I just feel like it has less constructive potential compared to the others we've seen. Lathnu Hellion, a red and 2, and this one's a 4/4 Hellion, it's a rare, has haste, and when this enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this unless you pay 2 energy. This one's another really push red card. I really like this. I mean, you get a 4/4 haste creature for 3, and on turn 3, I mean, that's quite the beating, quite honestly. Now, whether you keep it around or not is going to depend on the situation. You are given enough energy to at least keep it around for one more turn if you want to, but maybe you got your value out of it and you're just going to bank the energy to use on something else. That's very possible. Or else you may have a whole bunch of energy lying around that you have nothing to do with, so you can use it to keep this creature around. If your opponent doesn't have a good answer for it, you can just keep beating in, and they're either taking the damage or chump blocking, right? So I think it's a pretty good creature. It's definitely has potential for standard. I think even potential for modern in the right deck, and it will be a great beater for you in limited for sure. Madcap Experiment. 1 red and 3, this is a rare sorcery. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Madcap Experiment deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. So this is one of those cards that kind of just wants to be broken, right? Like, sure, there's a fair way to play it, and that will probably come up from time to time in limited. For example, we know there's a whole bunch of artifacts in this set. Maybe you have a Gear Hulk in your deck. Maybe you have some expensive vehicles. You go ahead and play this, and you just kind of cross your fingers, and you hope you hit something big, and you know you have enough artifacts. At the very least, you won't be taking too much damage from it. So it is playable in certain decks in limited, probably a little better in draft than it would be in sealed, but certainly playable. But really, this card wants to be broken, right? And this could probably combo with some cool things in Commander. I mean, the obvious being you throw some huge artifact in your deck, like a Blightsteel Colossus, and then maybe take like a Pariah to redirect the damage or something like that, right? And then you just get some huge creature on the board. Now, as far as that type of combo goes in other constructed formats, like a Modern or Legacy or something, it does feel a little bit slow for those environments. It just feels like there's other ways to kind of cheat things into play that are a little more economical at this point. However, having said that, these are the type of cards that people usually come up with something really cool with. So someone's going to brew something and try it out. Let me know in the comments below some of your ideas. You know, obviously it would be cool if you could get this to work, say in Modern or Legacy. I mean, if you could use like a Brainstorm effect or something to manipulate a Blightsteel Colossus in your deck. But the only thing that's kind of awkward is you already have Shape Anew from Scars of Mirrodin, which feels like a better version of this card, so I don't really know where it fits. But if anyone thinks of something, I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. Alright, here's probably the big one of the day. Nissa Vital Force. 2 green and 3, 5 loyalty. Of course, she's a mythic. +1, untap target land you control. Until the next turn, it becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. -3, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. -6, you get an emblem with whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Alright, so let's take this in for a second. Now, she's a 5 casting cost Planeswalker, not a 3 casting cost like we saw with her last time, so it's a very different card. The 3 casting cost Planeswalkers, their abilities aren't as earth-shaking. They're a little more incremental, but they can be very, very good because they're so cheap. This one, you're paying a little more, but you're also getting what you pay for, I think. I mean, 5 loyalty right off the bat. She can protect herself with her +1 ability. She can turn one of your lands to a 5/5 with haste, so it can just get in there and fight, or it can stay back and protect her, which is pretty awesome. She also gives you a regrowth effect, which is also very powerful. I mean, especially in recent history, regrowth effects always tend to exile themselves. This is one that potentially you could use more than one time. That's pretty cool. But what really has my attention is her -6. I mean, playing on land, every time you play a land, you draw a card. That's awesome, right? And it's not real hard to get to. because not only could you just play her and +1 her and do that next turn, you could maybe combo her with things like Oath of Gideon, for example, and that way she would come into play with 6 counters. You could immediately sacrifice her and get that emblem. That's actually kind of amazing. So I have no doubt this is going to see standard play. This potentially could see some modern play too. I know 5's a little pricey in the world of modern right now, but a little ramp, I mean, she's in the right color, green, a little ramp you could get there, and she could be quite good, I think. Fantastic for Commander and Cubes as well. Obviously a bomb in Limited. There's also another card, speaking of Limited, we're going to look at in just a moment, that also combos very well with her. So if you can't use Oath of Gideon, like you could in Standard, for example, you might actually get lucky and be able to draft this next card. And it is Animation Module. Cost 1, it's an artifact. It's a rare. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Pay 3 and tap. Choose a counter on target permanent or player. Give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. So obviously, if you don't have Oath of Gideon, this is another way to quickly add another counter to Nissa, so that's kind of interesting. But what really captures my attention about this card is it can do a lot of things you don't normally get to do. I mean, on paper, yeah, it simply could just give you an extra +1/+1 counter on your creature. But if you think a little deeper and you start thinking about other formats like Commander or even Modern, for example, you can start doing some pretty crazy things like adding poison counters to players, or adding experience counters in Commander, for example. Obviously, energy counters is the most recent thing that you could use this with. So it's pretty cool. It's almost like a nod to Proliferate, right? It's an awesome card if you're in a Fabricate plan as well. Say you're drafting a whole bunch of Fabricate cards. Now you get the +1/+1 counters, but you can also pay a little extra mana to get the actual tokens as well, the servo tokens. That's kind of neat, and it's cheap. I mean, it only costs 1. Now, granted, it's 3 to activate the one ability, 1 to activate the other ability, but for the most part, it's not a huge commitment. I mean, it's just taking up deck space, so you have to take that into account. So where does this thing land? I mean, honestly, it's a little too early to say if this is something you'd want for Standard, just because we don't know how good Fabricate's going to be yet. And it seems like it's going to be decent. And if it does turn out to be a thing in Standard, then maybe running a couple of these in the deck as a 1-drop to find a little more value and maybe garner a little bit of advantage in a mirror matchup or something could be possible. But aside from that, I think this will be good for you and Limited in a lot of situations, especially if you can go really deep with Fabricate. This could be quite strong for you. Next we have Decoction Module. Cost 2, it's an uncommon artifact. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get energy. Pay 4 and tap, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. So this is a good card for really exploiting the energy mechanic. Say you have maybe some Fabricate creatures, you can put a bunch of tokens on the battlefield. Those tokens give you energy, then you can do whatever you want to do with your energy later on. Seems actually kind of fun. The fact that you can return a creature at instant speed helps protect creatures. So if something's going to get hit by removal, or your opponent's just going to have to hold on to that removal until you're tapped out and you don't have the 4 mana open, that can get kind of annoying kind of fast. And instead of being able to remove the creature, all they can really do then is tempo you out a little bit. So it's an interesting card. I mean, it's cheap. It only costs 2. I think it'll be good for you and Limited in a number of builds. It also combos really well with this next card. Fabrication Module costs 3, another uncommon artifact. And whenever you get 1 or more energy counters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Pay 4 and tap, and you get an energy counter. So in a pinch, you can make energy counters, especially in the late game. That's actually kind of cool. But it does combo well with the last card we saw, because with that one, when the creature comes into play, you get an energy counter. Now you can take that energy counter and just convert it to a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Kind of awesome, right? So it seems like this could be fun. This seems like a really fun Limited strategy. Like, this is a draft around strategy. Use it with Fabricate for some extra value, but at the same time, even if you're not doing that, this is a way to get more energy counters if that's what you're in the business to do. So I find this pretty interesting. I mean, for these previous 2 cards, it's hard to say if they would make Standard play. It's really going to depend on how deep the energy Fabricate mechanics go, how important having something like this is, as opposed to just having a really fast, strong creature, because we have seen a lot of beat down creatures, especially in green and red. White's had some good ones too, but green and red has really stood out so far. It's just they're here to bring the beats and bring the beats fast. So I just kind of wonder like what kind of strategy we'll see in standard. If that becomes as good as it seems, maybe some of the slower strategies might not necessarily pay off. But again, that remains to be seen. We'll have to kind of see how the meta unfolds. Once we see more of the set, we can probably make a better determination on this card and the previous one as far as standard goes. But at the very least, I think these could be fun commander cards, and I do think this could be a draft strategy, if nothing else. Well, having said that, those are the 9 cards for today, and they keep coming. I mean, there's some fantastic cards in this set. I'm really excited for it. Tomorrow we'll have more previews, so we'll compile another video and put everything together for you. And we should get the same really for the rest of this week and then into next week. Now, a week from Friday, we'll have the full set revealed, and we'll begin our full set review on that day. So until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.